In this lesson, we'll be creating a project in Godot to create a platformer game, or at least elements of a platformer game, where we'll be working with creating environments. We'll create some backgrounds. We're going to learn how to use the tile maps and also how to introduce characters and have them engage in the scene. So I'm just going to start by launching Godot and kind of start from the start in how you would set up your files when you start a new project, if you will. So I'm just waiting for this to launch here. When it launches, you will get an opening screen. Now I have, as you can see, a number of projects that I've been working on, but if it's brand new, this will just be empty to you. But what we want to do is create a new project. So I'm going to suggest creating a Godot folder on my documents folder, as you probably should do as well, and maybe put your name in that folder, and then save your project folders inside of that. So let's just start by clicking the Create button at the top here. And I do want a new project, but as I said, I want to set up my project path, if you will, where my files will be saved. As for the name, you're going to use your last name underscore lesson number. So in this case, my last name is Willette underscore. If it's lesson 1, it would be 01. If it's another lesson, a different number. So I'm just going to go 0x for this for now. Now let me establish the pathway where it's going to go. So I'm browsing here. I'm going to go to list view. I find that a little easier. And I'm on my local drive here. And I'm going to look for my documents folder, which is right here. I'm going to go in there. And I have set up a project here called Godot Projects, but I think I'll just start a new one here. And I can go create a new folder right here, or I can select that and choose select current folder. So I'll create a brand new one. I'll just call it last name. I'll call it Godot underscore last name. Okay, so that'll be the folder with all of my projects ultimately. Click OK. And then select current folder. And you will see the pathway. And if I drag across here, you'll see that my file project folder will be inside of that newly established folder there. Okay, and let me undo that little change. And we're good to go, I think. Oh, you know what? Actually, for the renderer, it's not a big deal for today, but choose mobile. It gives you a little more flexibility. It creates it for mobile, but it also supports desktop as well, where the forward one only supports desktop. So we'll go with the mobile renderer and click Create. Okay, and I'm just going to resize my Godot window to fit my capture software here. There we go. And it initiates a brand new interface. And we will create a new project here momentarily. This is the main Godot editor window, and it's here that we'll do all of our work. It does start with some suggestions to begin, and what we need to start with is creating our first scene. And you always initiate a scene by creating a parent node, if you will. And as I said, it does have suggestions here, and we are creating a 2D scene. Maybe I'll switch over to the 2D view here. But I want to use other node because it's just going to give me a complete blank slate as a node to begin with. So I'm going to click other node and just select the basic node there and click Create. And that is sort of the parent of our what will be our main scene. So to save the scene right away, let's just save it. I can go Command S on the keyboard, Control S on PC. I can go Scene Save as well. Save scene. And it's going to ask us to name it. So let's just name this first scene Main. This will be the main scene of the whole movie. We will have other scenes as we move along here. And it will save it in the root directory in our file system. So I'm good to go. I hit Save. And once that saves, we should see an icon representing it right here. There we go. Now again, the scene is the container for all of the elements, if you will, and this is going to be our main container. So we will have child scenes within this, or at least child nodes within here. So I have two main elements I'd like to get started on. One is the background, and the other one is kind of the environment, if you will, and we're going to work with tile maps to create that. Now you can see over here, to move around, you can just hold your spacebar down, you can drag around. This is the upper left corner. You can also use your scroll wheel to zoom in or zoom out. And you can go 100% by clicking the middle here. Also, we have these incremental buttons as well. So I'm just going to center that as best I can right there. Okay, so I guess we'll start with the background, and we will be using some graphic elements to create sprites. So I went ahead and acquired some free elements online, and I will have links on my webpage for these, and they will be provided. But if I just go out to my Finder right now, I have a folder open with these free elements that I have downloaded. And I have a folder called background. So I'm going to use the green PNG for my background. And let's see here. I guess I can just drag that straight into the file system. And let's see. While I'm at it, why don't I grab the element for the tile map? And that's in another folder. It happens to be in this one called Terrain. And it's called Terrain, and it's got 16 by 16 pixel graphics in it. So let's just grab Terrain, and we'll put that in here and just save that for a little bit later and save my file. So I'm just going to go save scene here. Okay, so I will be bringing in more graphics as well as we move along here. Now maybe I'll also create a nice little folder to keep those graphics, keep it organized. So I'm going to right click over this folder right here, create new folder, and I'm just going to call that art. So all my graphics can go in there, and you just drag and drop over top of the folder icon. And it just keeps things a little cleaner here. Okay, now I can of course expand and collapse that folder. So to create our first element within our node, we're going to add a child node, and it's the one called Texture Rect that I'm looking for. Texture Rect, and using the search window can really be helpful to cut to the chase. So I'm going to select that and click Create. Now in the properties for Texture Rect, you have the texture that can go here, and it's literally dragging the PNG over to that box. So why don't I start with that? So I want this to be the background element right here, and there it is. Now I want it to fill the screen, but I'm not going to stretch it. Like if I stretch it here and my scene happens to change size at some point for some reason, things could get broken. So there's a very cool tool up here to make it always fill the screen, and this is one of the anchor presets. There are a number of them here. We're going to use the one here that basically is full rectangle. So that fills it in there. Okay, I'm going to just close that now. And that will always fill that space when you use the anchor presets up there. Now I have a couple of issues here. Number one, it's quite blurry when it got stretched. There actually is a way to remedy that here. And that's through the texture window. Under Inherit, Filter, instead of Inherit, choose Nearest. And you can see now that it became quite sharp. My other issue is I don't want it to be one big picture. I actually want it to be a pattern of small repeated patterns of this shape, if you will, at its actual size. So that would be under Stretch Mode, Scale. Instead of Scale, I'm going to choose Tile. And lo and behold, there we go. It's back to the original size, and it is still sharp because we did sharpen it under our texture filter set to Nearest. Okay, let's save that. And now we actually have the background element, and it's a Texture Rect node sitting inside of our parent node right there. Okay, next step will be a big one. We're going to actually learn how to create what are called tile maps. Alright, you're about to create the ground plane now using tile sets and tile maps. But before we get started, why don't I just show you an example of what we're talking about here. I'm going to actually quit my project temporarily and go to a finished file. And it's this one right here. And yes, I do have custom splash screens, so which we'll learn to do at a later date. And actually, let me just resize this here. Okay. So these elements are all part of a tile map layer, which you can see right here. If I turn this off, that's what we're going to create the walls and the floors and the obstacles with. Okay, and it's known as a tile map layer, technically speaking. And it's drawn up in a grid pattern. And you can see here, if I zoom up on this, this is the graphics that we'll be deriving. You see as I scroll over those elements, they are separated in 16 pixel squares, and I can select one or drag across and select multiples and then come up and paint sections. It's that easy, really. Let me do a couple of undos here, though. All right. And that is done through the tile map editor at the bottom here. We have tile sets and tile maps. We're going to learn how to apply both of those, but I thought I'd give you a look at, the concept and how it gets created, which is a grid pattern. Okay, again, if I was to pick one element, you can see how it would paint only in one. And if I click and drag, it does fill in where I drag. So I'm just going to undo that, and we're going to quit out of here and go back to our initial file. I'm going to say don't save. And we'll come back up to our start screen. And it was this one right here. I'm just double clicking it and we can get started on this again. So we're going to initiate a tile set, and we're going to use the tile map layer as our node. So again, I'm just going to adjust my screen here. There we go. All right, so we're going to make that a child of the main root here. So I'm going to click on that and then add, and it's tile map layer. Tile map is still there, but it is being deprecated. So I'm going to jump to the latest greatest, which is tile map layer. It will work with that, but you will get a warning as you see down here. Okay, so why mess with that? Let's just go to the latest greatest tile map layer. Click create. And we start with that. And then over in my properties, I need to create what's called a tile set. And that's that collection of graphics, if you will, that I can derive elements from. So I'm going to click on here, new tile set. And now I see a new tile set down in here. And I'm going to have to click on tile set. And then I can grab the graphics that will make up that tile set and drag them in here. Okay, and I'll say yes. And they will just drag this up a bit here, so you can see that a bit better. And you can zoom in on this. I'm using my scroll wheel. There are zooming features here as well. Okay, so that's the tile set. Now let's switch over to tile map. You can't make a tile map without an existing tile set. Okay, so let's switch over to tile map. And if we go over to the properties, you can see up here, you can see a map here, and I could start to click on elements. For example, I could grab this brown element here and start to draw and so on. I'm going to undo that, of course. But what I want to do actually is I want to change the dimensions of my little tiles, if you will, to a bigger size. So I'm going to come down here to transform, and under scale, I think I'm going to double them up. I'm going to go 2 and then tab 2, and it is locked together, so it will stay proportional. Otherwise, you could type in the 2 separately there again. Okay, and you see the tiles have gotten bigger. So it's a case of building using this array of tiles here, and if I zoom in even further, you can see, I'll just center that up there. You can select one or multiple tiles here to use to paint with. So I am on the pencil tool, by the way, that's the default. And you can also erase. This is the erase tool, and it is actually part of the pencil tool. We have the arrow tool to select elements, then the pencil tool. The bucket tool fills in the whole space. So I'm just going to say let's stick to the pencil and the arrow tool for now. But let's say I want to paint, let's say with these green elements at the top, I'll select all of those 3 and you see them highlighted. And you can see here a preview, and when I click and drag, it fills in vertically and horizontally whatever I cover with my cursor, right? So there is the painting tool. Now if I want to delete that, I can go to the eraser and I can just go back over what I covered, and that will delete. And that can work anywhere, anytime. Okay? For example. Now to turn that off and paint some more, you will have to turn off the eraser. And let's say I want to just do, I want to do this whole big section here like this. Now I'm actually going to reduce my view here a little bit. There we go. And that's what I actually have here as a screen. Now you're also going to want to have sort of a wall around it on the outside. So I would suggest maybe just take the single brown tile in the middle here It almost doesn't matter because you won't see it on screen, but this is to prevent our character from getting lost, I guess, and I'm not being too straight with that, but I can come and erase later. But I'm just going to put a wall around here, and I have to fix this right here. I'll put that there for now, though. And that's just me not being very accurate with my mouse. But I'll come back with my eraser. Okay, so there's my eraser. And if I'm a little more careful here. Again, this is on the outside of the screen, but just to keep it clean looking. And again, in here, I went over the line, if you will. And I want to turn off the eraser and continue the draw. Okay, so, and I can take these rope elements, select those. So basically that's it. Oh yes, if I show you the arrow tool, I can actually grab, I can highlight and move some of these blocks around. Okay, they do snap to the grid, of course. Okay. And there we go. That's the fundamentals of drawing with a tile map layer set, or a tile set inside of a tile map layer. And these graphics will be provided, but you can create your own, and there are lots and lots of them available online. Just be aware of the copyright situation for any of these. Okay, so that's the basics of a tile map. So I'm going to pause the video here and come back with a finished environment. I'm going to ask you to make a unique environment as well using these tile sets. Okay, we are back, and I have constructed sort of a little playground area here for our game. Now, might be hard to notice here on screen, but these are a little blurry. If I was to zoom up, they're a little bit blurry. So let's fix that. Let's make these all sharp. We had done this on the background, and that's done in texture. And we'll change the filter from inherit down to nearest. And you see how all of a sudden those got quite sharp. And I'm just going to save my file again. And we're ready to introduce a character to our scene. So I'm going to come up to my scenes map here, my scene tree, select the root node, and add a child node known as character body 2D. And there it is right there. Now it does have a warning. Basically the warning is saying that you do need to have a collision shape to accompany this. So we basically need two child nodes for the character body. One will be for the sprite and the other one for this collision. So we'll start by, maybe I'll start by actually going and getting the graphic for that sprite, which I do have in this folder here. And let's see, main characters, and I'm going to use the Ninja Frog today. So let's see, I guess I will use, we'll use the jump image. I'm just going to grab that and drag that over into my art. And there we have it right there. Okay, so I will now add a sprite node to the character body 2D. So just type that in under my search. Sprite 2D is what I'm looking for. And we will just highlight that. And over in my inspector, I'm going to drag the graphic called jump over into the texture area. And there it is there. And if you want to resize it, now's as good a time as any, so why don't I just do that right now. I'm holding my shift key down, and I will kind of zoom out to get a better picture. And maybe, I think that's okay right there. I'm just going back here. Now you know, you might have noticed it is blurry, right? So let's go down and deal with that right away. Texture, filter, nearest. There we go, nice and sharp. So I'm going to add a collision shape to this now. So that will again be a sibling of Sprite 2D. So we do need to click on Character Body 2D as the parent and add a collision node. Collision shape 2D, there we go. And I need to establish it. That warning is saying I haven't established the actual shape yet. And we do that up here. I'm just going to use a rectangle, new rectangle shape 2D, and it appears as a aqua blue, which ultimately is invisible when the movie's running, of course, when the game is running. But I'm just going to resize that to roughly fit the area that the sprite's taken up, and that looks pretty good there. So why don't I just go and save that. And really, to make this practical, this needs to be turned into a subscene. Again, I'm just going to shrink down because if I want to move things, you see how when I grab stuff, it's not coming as a group. So what I'll do is I will select the character body 2D, right click, and go Save Branch as Scene. And here, let's call this one Ninja. Ninja. And I'll hit save, and of course be aware of where it's going. It's going into my root file system here. And it will be my second scene. I have the main scene, and this will be another scene. Save that. Once you've saved it, it's turned into an instance of that scene. That's why you can see that little icon of like the clapboard there. And now when I grab it, it is a single unit. Okay. So there we go. We have that in place. So again, let's just save. And now we've introduced a character. If I hit play, oh, it looks like I haven't hit play yet, and it's asking me to select my current movie, which is the main scene, as the default scene. I'm going to say yes, select current. And now it's appearing in the play window. And you see how when I stretch that, actually it doesn't stretch. I'm going to show you how to fix that, but you can see the work there. Right, you can see that it's there. And nothing's moving yet. We haven't programmed anything, but the graphics are all in place. There's our little character. So let's close this for a second. I'm going to make it so that that can stretch. So I'm just going to go up to my project settings up here. And under Window, there's a stretch section down here. Mode disabled. Let's just choose Canvas Items and click Close, and we'll try that again. So I hit the Run Project button. And if I grab the corner, it does. Okay, so it can stretch like that with that setting in my project settings. As I was saying, there's all my graphics. You can see them in the background looks good. Everything is sharp. We took that blur out. There's our character. And I guess the next step will be to introduce some interactivity with our character. So let me just close that now. So what we need to do is we need to actually get into the scene that is our character. So it's down here, Ninja. I'm going to double click that. And it opens up in a new tab. And I'm just going to zoom in here and use my spacebar to drag our little friend to the forefront. And there it is there. So we need to add a script to this. Now the beautiful thing about what we're about to do is there are some pre-built scripts, some templates that we can apply to certain nodes, and they come sort of attached to certain nodes. So let's highlight the parent node for character body 2D. And we're going to add a script to that. So we click on the add script, attach a new script. Now in this window, we will retain the GD script language. It inherits the character body 2D, yes. And here's the very powerful and beautiful thing, the template that can come with this. There are others, but that one's specific to characters that move around the screen. And what it's going to do is it's going to actually give us instant ability to move our character around. And it will also apply gravity to it. It is pretty cool, and you don't have to do any scripting, but we will learn how to play with that script as we go along. So I'm ready to click create. And boom, yeah, it's a lot of code right here. It's not a lot, but it's, you know, it's a little bit beyond where we're at right now. But I will show you what all of these lines mean and how to work with this and manipulate it and get it to work for you. Okay, so let's just save that for now though. And if we go to play or run project, it should have some interactivity in it now. And boom, I don't know if you saw that, it was quick. Our character had some pretty severe gravity and fell through the floor and didn't land on the ground. So we do need to make it so that these elements within the tile map will have a collision feature to them to address the character. Okay, so we'll close that. I'll run it once more really fast here. And you see, there goes our character. But that tells you, that does show you that there's something going on now with the character. So let's go take a step back. We'll go back to our main and we'll go to our tile map layer. And this is how you can literally paint in collision areas. All right, let me go to the 2D screen as well here and just zoom out here. Okay, So to set this up, we just go to the tile map layer inspector, and where you have your tile set, just click on that tile set and it should open up and show you a little menu called Physics Layers. Here you're going to add an element, and that element will be ultimately your collision section. So add element, and it'll say collision layer 1, collision mask 1. We'll get into the details of this at a later date, but basically that's what you want. And then to set up the actual collisions, you go to your tile set, choose paint, and select a property editor. Under physics, that new physics layer you created should be called physics layer 0. Select that, and you can see it creates sort of this aqua thing, and just paint over everything that you want to be something that it collides with. So I'm just going to cover all of these that I used. And I don't think I used these, but I mean, you could just do everything, and that would certainly work. But I believe I've designated all the tiles that I have used graphically as having a collision. Again, that's through the paint, under the paint properties, physics layer 0. Okay, and if I click away there and go back to my tile map, I'm just going to save my file and we'll give this another test. Saving scene. Okay, and you saw that it landed. So the collision's working. Now, the built-in controls are on the left and right arrows, and I believe also the A, no, not the A and the D, just the left and right arrows. Okay, jump is on the spacebar. Okay, now we'll get into, in another lesson, we'll get into how to control these, but for today, if you can build this environment with a background, a tile map using a tile set, introducing a character that does have interactivity and can move, and having collisions on all the tile map elements. Now it looks like I painted myself into a corner there, but it's a bit of trial and error, right? So I could come in here and I could go down to my tile map, and with my pencil I could build another little platform here, I guess, and just put it there. That might help me get up. Okay, so it drops. Again, I'm just going to stretch this out. And using my jump feature, and I'm not a very good player here of my own game, it seems. Alright, so there we go. So we've got a character introduced. In upcoming lessons, we'll learn how to set animation to the character. Also, not just any animation, but depending on the direction that it's going and what it's doing and so on. And we'll take it from there. But for today, if you can have a background, platform elements that do have collision features, using a tile map, and a character that can move around the screen, left, right, and jump, using the templated script that comes with the character body 2Ds. And that is our lesson or our assignment for today.